is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police splatter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
From the Heart Media Group newsroom and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this expanded morning newscast. Good morning and thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The news is brought to you by Baum Chevy Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, as well as Connexus, offering fiber internet in Clinton. Click their icon on DeWittDailyNews.com to find out more. Last month, DeWitt County Emergency Management Agency Coordinator Will Pavlik requested a few necessary accessories for the recently approved truck. A planned absence caused that discussion to be tabled until now. At Thursday night's DeWitt County Public Safety Committee meeting, Pavlik welcomed questions from the committee members about the proposed items and their costs, the first of which was a mounted mobile radio that would be a replacement for the current unsupported model, which the sheriff's office is also doing.
Yeah, so the current vehicle, the Malibu, does have an in-unit mobile radio. We've had that as far as I can remember. It's been something that we utilize, obviously, for in-car communication. And obviously we've got our portables as well. But there's times where the connection is not going to be as good, and most mobile radios do have a little bit better bandwidth to be able to get some of that connection for in-car communication if it's needed. It's got a bigger audio output as well, to where we can hear a little bit better on those as opposed to the smaller portables. We do have one in the car, correct? Yes. But that particular model is getting outdated to where it's not going to be functional compared to this new one that we're getting, this new model.
I think they have the same one that we have that we're replacing.
Correct.
They haven't been supported for several years. So what we are doing is, as we purchase new vehicles, we're purchasing new radios to replace those. You can still use them, but if something goes wrong with them, they're no good. So if you got the money to replace them, that's why we budgeted to do so.
In the long run, you're better off with that.
Yeah,
correct. Page 4's got the price,
$3,539.62.
Second on the agenda was the purchase of emergency red and blue lights that would go on the interior of the vehicle. Pavlik emphasized that these would not be used while on the way to or from an emergency, but rather while parked on the road to be visible to passing vehicles.
So we had installed lights to the Malibu in February of 2025. It was something that I had noticed was in need after an incident in December of 2024. I was out on the road on 51. It was nighttime hours. It was very windy. It was either raining or snowing. It was precipitation. And I got called out to a hazmat spill out on 51 with a semi, and I parked behind fire trucks or fire apparatus, and had to throw my hazard lights on. There were no lights on the vehicle at the time, so I threw my hazards on. And there was a vehicle that was close to hitting the Malibu. Didn't get over in time, just I think due to the night time and maybe not paying attention. I'm not sure. And so that was kind of the point where I had felt the need that lights would be appropriate. For the record, I don't drive through town with lights, going code 3 or anything. I've put the lights on when I arrive to the scene just for my own safety, for, the vehicle's safety, so it's not get damaged. And that's, like I said, the only time I leave them on. I put them off when I leave the scene. This gentleman, Josh Mito, has drawn up for me $3,700 is for the front and rear interior light bars, and then it has to do with the bracket system, the speaker system as well. I'm not getting, any sirens, obviously. It's strictly lights, but I think just the nature of the Wayland system that is being implemented is a little more expensive, and it's a little more area to cover than the Malibu was. And then adding to that $8,000 total, though, is a installation cost for the mobile radio as well. So that's taking that into account as well. That's $1,800 for that labor cost.
Annually, the city of Clinton and the county agree to a memorandum of understanding that provides the city with EMA services in exchange for $15,000. Pavlik feels this amount is insufficient. Conversations with City Administrator Tony Harris have revealed that those increases would have to come next year.
This is part of our annual process of updating our agreement, or renewing our agreement with the city of Clinton. They pay us $15,000 every year for EMA services for the city. And May 1st is the start of the deadline for the 2026-2027 MOU duration. And so just coming forward, just asking to see if we are wanting to renew this for the amount of $15,000. I did speak with Tony, I believe last week or the week before, about trying to up some of the services, because I know this $15,000 has been in place for, I believe, 15 years at least, maybe longer. And obviously with inflation, cost of services all increasing over those 15 years, we're wanting to try and increase it. I'd kind of eyeballed the $25,000 to $30,000 range potentially. For this year, we're sticking with the $15,000 just because they just rolled out their new budget and don't have the time to incorporate those new costs in there. But we're looking at trying to have discussions over the course of this year to try to implement that for the 2027 MOU re-agreement. So that's kind of where we're at. But I just thought I'd let you know that we are trying to renegotiate some of those terms, because the $15,000 I think is too low for 2026.
Both purchases for the new EMA vehicle were approved by the committee. The renewal of the MOU with the City of Clinton was also passed unanimously and will be voted on by the full board next week. DeWitt County's Animal Control has received an influx of non-monetary donations recently, so much so that they are looking to redistribute some of it to the community. We'll have more on that in the days ahead from the Heart Media Group. Coming up shortly on this expanded newscast, DNR authorities reminding public to leave baby wildlife alone. The DeWitt County 708 Board has wrapped up its latest community needs assessment and is looking ahead to how it can address the concerns brought out through that assessment. On the WHOW Morning Show Thursday, Sharon Mills with the DeWitt County 708 Board told the Heart Media Group that the organization has been reviewing the findings from its community assessment conducted in partnership with Heritage Behavioral Health to better understand the specific needs of the people they serve.
Well, the DeWitt County Community Mental Health Board is required to produce an assessment every 3 years to support our strategic planning for the county and the services and programs that are needed for residents with mental illness, substance use disorder, and or intellectual and developmental disabilities. So this year we teamed up with Heritage, who also had a requirement to do an assessment for a project that they're working on. Well, there were several things we did for this particular assessment. We had a community survey that was online as well as distributed through our social networks and through the libraries in DeWitt County. There was a professional survey, so individuals could potentially respond from multiple perspectives and take both surveys, professional survey. And then we also did focus groups and key informant interviews with who we thought were some key populations that we wanted to speak to and get input from.
Mills explains the survey results have led them to focus on the challenges of accessing care and the stigmas that surround the resources they provide, like a perceived cost barrier.
The assessment followed 3 themes, I guess.
Okay.
And that was generally community needs, barriers to treatment, as well as specific service needs in the community. There are certain sections in there as well that specifically talk about youth. There's a section that focuses on needs of veterans in the community. Of course, stigma is always raised as a barrier to treatment, as people may be reluctant or hesitant to seek services for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons, though, was people perceiving a cost barrier. And it's important to know that individuals can get services from Heritage at a low cost or on a sliding fee scale. They will also help to get people hooked up with insurance. So, I think that was a little bit of a surprise in the sense of knowing that perception's out there, but really people don't have to feel like they can't get services because of cost.
Mary Garrison with Heritage feels that spreading the word is the best way to break the stigmas around care. She wants people to know that no matter your financial status, anyone who walks through the door will be welcomed and seen.
And we need to continue to make sure we talk about that. You can come in our door and have no financial resources and you will be seen. And we, again, will work with you to one, not only for us, but for other providers so that you can get potentially the insurance or get onto Medicaid or Medicare. So we are there to do that, wrap ourselves around individuals who come in our door. And that's what makes a community mental health center unique to other providers who provide counseling and now a certified behavioral health care clinic. The payment model is different, which allows us to say, come in our doors. We'll take care of that. We're worried about what you're worried about and your concerns. And we can do that with taking the stress away related to the financial concerns. I think that means we need to continue to be out in the community and build relationships. The more we talk about this, now that we've spoken to you, right, you'll speak to your family and friends about it. But we have to remember, especially as providers, that we know it and we think about it all the time, but not everybody is. So let's just keep repeating that, getting out and doing presentations, understanding what services are offered and how we collaborate with other entities in the community as well. Because we can't do it alone.
Mills adds that although the population of the county has decreased slightly, through this assessment, they have found that the number of people in need has increased, especially in rural areas. That, combined with the rarity of mental health resources in rural places, emphasizes the need for what they provide.
Something else I wanted to point out, and it's a statistic that's raised in the report, overall, I think through 2025, the population of DeWitt County has decreased, I think by 7 or 8%, but the population decreased overall by that amount. But the population in our outlying communities or the most rural or remote, especially from Clinton, has actually grown. So it's even more important for those outlying communities to know what resources are available. And we found certainly working with the libraries has been tremendous because especially in Weldon or Waynesville, even in Farmer City, those libraries become significant hubs for information and resources in our communities. So that was one of the groups we talked to with a focus group was through the Village of Weldon and the Weldon Public Library. And we're going to want to continue to develop that relationship and ensure that there is information and resources that they can provide to community members seeking information.
We'll have more in the days ahead at the Heart Media Group from Mills and Garrison on their findings from the community assessment. In the meantime, learn more about the DeWitt County 708 board by finding them on Facebook or going to DeWittCountyMHB.com. Follow along with Heritage Behavioral Health Center at heritagenet.org. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
Spring is in the air, so it's time to choose your new Silverado. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. We have a good selection of new Silverados with springtime savings and special finance rates. Choose from regular cabs, double cabs, or crew cabs in gas or diesel. We're also allowing extra money for your trade on all new Silverados this month. Silverado, together let's drive. See all our inventory at BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time is 23 minutes after the top of the hour. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. It's baby animal season in central Illinois, and local outdoor authorities are reminding the public to leave wildlife alone, even if you suspect its mother is not going to rescue it. On the WHOW Morning Show Thursday, Department of Natural Resources Conservation Police Officer Noah Workman told the Heart Media Group People often become concerned about baby animals because they cannot see their mom.
Leave those alone. It was funny. Please, I guess this is a public service announcement to people listening. Do not send me a picture of a fawn in the front seat of your truck and tell me that you're saving its life. Had that the other day. It was a text message, a picture of a fawn in the front seat of somebody's truck, and they said, the mom got ran over. I think we need to save this. Please do not pick up the fawn. Leave the fawn in the timber. These deer have survived in this state longer than we've been here. Let them go.
Right.
So yeah, don't pick up injured animals or fawns that you think are abandoned by their mother. Just leave them alone.
According to Officer Workman, trying to rescue a baby animal and then letting it back out into nature is not going to help that animal.
And I mean, it's unlawful. Raccoons are the big ones. People want the raccoon pups as a pet, which is really cool for about 2-3 months. And then that thing starts to hit puberty and goes absolute bonkers. But it's illegal, but you're really doing it a disfavor, because if I receive the complaint, I can't reintegrate that thing back into nature effect. I don't do that. There's rehabbers that supposedly do that effectively. But once it's, became a domesticated, so to speak, raccoon, a pet, it has its instincts to survive are gone.
Right.
You're actually, once it becomes a jerk and you decide you want to let it outside because it's not fun and cute anymore, it's not going to survive.
Additionally, residents may find animals nesting. There are a couple of options for residents. Officer Workman explains you can either obtain nuisance permits or hire companies to remove them. He notes DNR cannot remove animals.
There's nuisance animal removal companies that'll come. Like right now, I've had a couple where people are having raccoons give birth to litters up in attics. They're ripping up the fascia on the house, getting in there. The mom's going in, having the litter of pups, and then they're calling us. We don't remove them. We have online. There's a nuisance removal list on the DNR website.
Okay.
You can go access.
Yeah.
And it's broken down by each county where these licensed nuisance
People
animal removers are. You can also look on the Facebook page too. But if you want to remove them yourself, you can obtain a nuisance removal permit. They're free of charge. You go online, you fill out a nuisance removal permit application. It gets kicked to our biologist, and the biologist will typically, it's pretty quick, especially for raccoons, stuff like that. They get them back to you within that day. Write a little description of what's going on. They look at it, review it, and then issue you it could be a 30 up to 90-day permit. And then once you've removed the nuisances, you document how many nuisances you removed, and there's different rules with different species on how to remove them and what you do with them after you've trapped them. Yeah, you send that back off to the department so they can kind of have the numbers of how many you took, and then
we'll hear from Officer Workman next week on trash buildup at Clinton Lake, a frustration of local DNR authorities. Much of Illinois has been stuck in an active weather pattern this month, with strong storms popping up, and that will continue into Friday evening, says meteorologist Paul Otto with Freeze Notice Weather.
What's happening is we're getting these strong systems coming from the Pacific Northwest and California, but then we're getting that low-level flow from the western Gulf of Mexico coming up through Texas, Oklahoma, and feeding the system with that tropical type energy. And therefore, when those two hit, it's just an explosion that you see occur not only in the afternoon when you're likely to see it, but continuing into the evening, because you have such that strong flow of moist air from the western Gulf of Mexico.
Cold air arrives this weekend with frost potential in many parts of the state Saturday night and Sunday night. The Illinois High School Association has established a competitive balance committee, which aims to address disparities between public and private schools competing in interscholastic athletics. The committee has already met twice. IHSA Executive Director Craig Anderson says the committee will meet monthly through September and look at the association's multiplier, success factor, and 30-mile radius that non-boundaried schools can pull students from.
Kind of reached out to our school administrators across the state. Out of the items, a number of them, of course, and a variety of ideas of things that as an association we might target to improve. One of the big ones was the competitive balance misnomer or belief that there's still some concerns about the non-boundary versus the boundary schools and the competitive balance or competitive advantages of the non-boundary schools. And so the strategic planning group, when they got together, that committee steered us to forming a competitive balance committee. The tentative plan is to meet monthly, even throughout the summer, and leading in, and by the end of September of this year, that whatever outcomes might result in guiding the association forward related to competitive balance is to try to have some outcomes for the board of directors and or the membership to consider a bylaw change or a policy adjustment, whatever would fit based upon, kind of what the committee determines are our best next steps to try to create some competitive balance within our membership.
The IHSA Competitive Balance Committee is made up of 8 public school administrators, 6 private school admins, and 3 IHSA admins. Get news anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. It is an historic turn of events, Israel and Lebanon talking about peace. President Trump has extended a White House invitation to the leaders of both countries. The Iran war truce has been holding, but the president says that if Iran does not agree to a deal with the U.S., the fighting will resume. He describes things as going swimmingly, though, and says the war could come to an end pretty soon. Their feet firmly back on terra firma, the Artemis II astronauts have been recounting their recent 10-day mission to the moon. Leaving for the private sector, acting ICE Director Todd Lyons. He will resign at the end of next month. The White House describes him as an American patriot who made our country safer. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures up 202 points. NASDAQ futures are 54 points higher. More details, srnnews.com.
If you don't care about saving 50% off your wireless bill for the same 5G coverage the big guys are charging a fortune for, maybe you care about keeping jobs in America. Pure Talk does. They've pledged to run their entire operation from this country, including all their customer service. Or maybe you care about our nation's veterans. Pure Talk does. They've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to America's Warrior Partnership, a fantastic organization working hard to prevent veteran suicide. Or maybe you care about closing America's skills gap. Pure Talk does. They're a proud supporter of MicroWorks. They're helping my foundation train the next generation of skilled workers. Don't get me wrong. Saving money's great, and you'll save plenty with Pure Talk. But if you want to be in business with people who share your values, dial pound 250, say micro, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
From the Hart Media Group Sports Desk, IL Sports Wire, and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this local sports report. Monticello and Champaign St. Thomas More went back and forth all night, combining for 24 runs, but it was the Sages who delivered the final push in a 13-11 win. Monticello struck first in the opening inning with an RBI single from Jax Bailey, but St. Thomas More answered right away and kept applying pressure. The Sages built an early cushion with strong production in the second and third innings, highlighted by RBI hits from Zeke Young, Cole Basak, and a 2-run single from Dawson Gatros to make it 7-2. But the Sabres had a response of their own, and St. Thomas More erupted in the fourth inning, putting together a huge rally fueled by a 3-run double from Ashton Hill and additional RBIs from Will Carduck and Henry Carduck to take a 9-8 lead. They kept the momentum going in the fifth with Michael Roselle and Brody Gray delivering key hits to extend the lead to 11-10. Monticello did not fold. After tying the game in the fifth, the Sages came through with the decisive inning in the sixth. Grant Kiger ignited the rally with a game-tying triple. Matthias Rudolph followed with an RBI double. and Cole Basak added an RBI single to push Monticello ahead 13-11. From there, the Sages held on, closing out the high-scoring contest and securing the win. Monticello's ability to answer every punch and deliver in the clutch proved to be the difference in a game full of momentum swings. Monticello girls wasted no time taking control and never let up, erupting offensively in a 15-1 rout of Champaign St. Thomas More and high school Lincoln Prairie Conference softball action. The Sages set the tone early in the first inning as Sadie Walsh and Madison Highland each drove in runs to give Monticello a quick 2-0 lead. St. Thomas More answered with a solo home run from Schweigart, but that would be the only spark for the Sabres all game. From there, it was all Monticello. The Sages broke things open in the third inning with a massive rally fueled by extra base hits. Madison Highland, Allie Widener, and Reese Steiger all delivered doubles, while Isabella Beery added an RBI single as Monticello piled on runs and stretched the lead out of reach. They didn't slow down in the fourth or fifth innings. Isabella Beery and Widener continued to produce at the plate, while Sadie Walsh and Cassidy Stoffel added more RBIs in a relentless offensive attack. In the fifth, Widener capped off her standout day with a 2-run double, pushing the total to 15 runs and sealing the blowout. Monticello's lineup consistently found barrels, racking up hits all over the field and taking advantage of opportunities, while their defense held St. Thomas More in check after the opening inning. The Mount Pulaski varsity Hilltoppers used a huge early surge and relentless pressure on the base paths to defeat the 2026 Midwest Central Varsity Raiders 7-1. Mount Pulaski wasted no time getting on the board in the bottom of the first. Chaos on the bases and aggressive running quickly turned into runs as Luke Martin and Tyler Cross both came around to score during a sequence fueled by wild pitches and a dropped third strike. Jaden Jackson added a key RBI single as the Hilltoppers jumped out to an early 3-0 lead. The pressure didn't stop there. In the third inning, Mount Pulaski continued to capitalize on free passes. A series of walks pushed runs across in waves, extending the lead as the Hilltoppers built a commanding 7-0 advantage. The lineup stayed patient, and the Raiders struggled to find answers on the mound as traffic on the bases never stopped. Midwest Central finally broke through in the fourth. After a balk moved the runners into scoring position, Dalton Johnson drove in a run with a sac fly to center, bringing Ryan Terrell to make it 7-1. That would be the Raiders' only run of the game as Mount Pulaski's early damage proved too large to overcome. From start to finish, the Hilltoppers controlled the tempo with patience at the plate and aggressive base running, securing the dominant 7-1 win. The Sullivan Lady Redskins wasted no time taking control and never let go, powering past the Argenta-Oreana Lady Bombers 7-2 behind a dominant early offensive outburst. The game opened with Sullivan putting immediate pressure on Argenta-Oreana. In the bottom of the first, they struck for multiple runs, highlighted by a double from Erilyn Thrasher as the Bombers' defense struggled to contain the damage. The inning quickly spiraled as it got out of control for Argenta-Oreana before they could settle in. The momentum carried into the second inning, where the Redskins continued to capitalize on mistakes. Walks, wild pitches, and defensive errors helped push the lead to 7-0 before the middle innings, giving Sullivan full control of the game early. Argenta-Oreana showed life in the sixth when Kaylin Madrigal delivered an RBI single to bring home Sophia Wicklund. In the seventh, Wicklund added another hit and helped generate a second run after an error, but the rally came too late to close the gap. Despite the late push from the Bombers, the Redskins' early offensive explosion proved too much to overcome as they secured the 7-2 victory. In a game packed with momentum swings, the Lincoln Railsplitters stormed back late and walked it off for an 11-10 win over Champaign Central. Champaign Central came out firing, getting on the board first with a leadoff home run from Pipkins. They broke things open in the fourth inning, highlighted by a bases-clearing triple from Timmons that pushed the lead to 7-3 and gave Central full control. But Lincoln chipped away at that deficit. The Railsplitters answered in the third with a big two-run single from Kane Komnick, then continued to close the gap in the fifth. Cooper Kohler and Bryce Vlahovic delivered key RBI singles, and Chase March tied the game at 7-7 with a clutch hit to center. Lincoln grabbed the lead in the sixth when Owen Comstock came through with an RBI single, putting the Railsplitters up 8-7. Still, Champaign Central wasn't done. In the top of the seventh, Central surged back ahead behind a two-run single from Timmons and another run-scoring play to make it 10-8. With their backs against the wall, Lincoln delivered one final rally. In the bottom of the seventh, Grady Rutledge came through with a two-run single to tie the game at 10-10. Moments later, Owen Comstock stepped up again and delivered the biggest hit of the night, a walk-off RBI single to center field that scored Austin Lucas and completed the comeback in dramatic fashion. A game that looked in hand for Champaign Central turned into a resilient, never-quit performance from Lincoln, who had the final answer when it mattered most. What looked like a comfortable win turned into a back-and-forth thriller, but the Heyworth Lady Hornets had the final say, walking off the Warrensburg-Latham Lady Cardinals 9-8 in the bottom of the eighth inning. Heyworth came out hot early on, putting up 4 runs in the first inning behind RBI swings from Carissa Cook, Haley Rogers, and Grace Streens. They continued to apply pressure in the fourth and fifth innings, building what became an 8-4 lead thanks to contributions from Streens, Ilya Riddle, Natalie Kopp, and a sac fly from Lena Hunt. Warrensburg-Latham did not go quietly. The Cardinals chipped away in the fourth with a 2-run blast from Kelsey Oakley, then took advantage of defensive miscues in the fifth to tighten the game. Still trailing late, they erupted in the top of the seventh inning. Bella Ground sparked the rally with a 2-run single, followed by Audrey Denton and Eliana Park, each delivering RBI knocks to tie the game at 8-8 and force extra innings. With momentum seemingly on the Cardinals' side, Heyworth stayed composed. In the bottom of the eighth, the Hornets put together the final push. Lauren Streens reached and Lena Hunt stepped up in the clutch, lining a single to left field that brought home Riley Barden for the game-winning run, sealing the dramatic 9-8 victory. Heyworth's early offense set the tone, but it was their resilience after surrendering the late lead that defined the win, answering immediately when it mattered most. Junior Caminero homered, and the Tampa Bay Rays scored twice on bases loaded walks in the ninth inning, rallying for a 5-3 win over the Chicago White Sox on Thursday.
Things started out well enough as Miguel Vargas successfully overturned a called strike 3, and then on the very next pitch, Miguel Vargas took full advantage.
A swing and a drive deep to left field, and it is gone.
Everson Pereira backed that up with a solo shot of his own.
It's a swing and a fly ball, well hit, left center field. It is gone. Everson Pereira gives the Sox the lead in the eighth.
But the White Sox bullpen could not hold a 3-2 lead, and a 3-run spot by the Rays was enough to secure the sweep at Rate Field. The Sox hit the road for 6 games in 7 days. I'm Jeff Meller, and I'll have your pregame coverage starting at 8 p.m. on the ESPN 1000 Hard Rock Casino White Sox Network.
White Sox right-handed pitcher Davis Martin starts Friday in Sacramento against right-handed pitcher Aaron Savali. Logan Malu scored the go-ahead goal with 2 minutes and 57 seconds left to play, and Robert Thomas had a hat trick as the St. Louis Blues beat the Utah Mammoth 5-3 in the regular season finale for both teams on Thursday night. Malu scored unassisted on a backhand shot from 20 feet out to make it 4-3 in a back-and-forth game. Thomas's third goal, an empty netter with 38 seconds left, capped the scoring. Pavel Buchnevich had the other goal for St. Louis, and Joel Hofer made 20 saves. Michael Carcone, Lawson Krause, and Kaylor Yamamoto scored for the Mammoth. Karel Velmelka and Vitek Vanecek combined for 24 stops. Clayton Keller assisted on 2 Utah goals to become the third NHL player this season with at least 1 assist in 10 straight games. St. Louis struck first at the 3-minute and 45-second mark of the first period when Buchnevich tapped in a wrist shot at the post. Utah equalized when Carcone snapped in the puck with 3 minutes and 5 seconds left in the first. Krause put the Mammoth in front 45 seconds into the second period, tapping in a deflected puck after Mackenzie Weegar fired a shot down the middle. Thomas scored twice later in the period to help the Blues retake the lead. He leveled the score on a wrist shot at the 8-minute and 14-second mark and then tipped in the puck with 8 minutes and 53 seconds left in the second. Utah equalized